Testing 1, 2, 3. This will be the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting from March 2nd, 2016, beginning at 6 p.m.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Community Redevelopment Agency regular meeting, March 2nd, 2016, approximately 6 p.m. Please join me in a moment of silence and the pledge. And a pledge.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 3, citizens' comments. The mic is open. Hearing none, close the citizen comment portion. Open it up on agenda item 4 for members' comments. Mr. O'Connor, start with you.
I'm looking forward to the re-party at Shell Street. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you.
I have nothing.
I have nothing. Thank you. Moving on to the executive director's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Chairman. The State Road A1A improvements are going well. We have been, the DOT has made a final decision to include all the requests of the city into the project. So all of the improvements that were presented at the public hearing are included in the final design. They released the final design today, so we will let you know if there's any major changes to that. We don't believe there will be. The design includes the sidewalk in front of Sandpiper Condominiums, which is in the unincorporated area. And then also, as an aside to that, the DOT is working and meeting with the base. They've set a meeting later this week to talk about the sidewalk from Cocoa Beach to Satellite Beach on the east side of A1A. So that's actually moving forward, which is great news. Mm-hmm. The Colonel Wallace has been an incredible advocate for that and has taken it to the higher levels of DOT, so it's moving really fast. The DOT project, the A1A project, will be bidded around the June timeframe, and will start construction later in the year. So they're very good about the notices and things like that. So we'll get all those notices and let you know.
Can I ask you one question?
Yeah.
Anyway?
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to give us a time schedule. So it's not. I think we had a vision that it would be starting in April or May. So obviously it's going to be a little later than that.
We had always thought it was going to be at the end of the year. It's the bidding that's going to be in May or and it'll probably be more around June is when they'll let the project.
How will that? Is that good from the standpoint? When are they going to start the renourishment along A1A? Is that going to?
That's pretty far off, actually, in my opinion. I don't think they'll conflict. The renourishment has been funded by the federal government, Army Corps of Engineers, for the engineering part. So they haven't funded the construction yet. So once the engineering's done, then we'll probably have more idea of the time frame for the construction.
I was just curious because when we spoke at that meeting, they really didn't know that was going on, and it might be at the same time.
Right.
Thank you.
Just one question. If they start construction towards the end of the year, just the question you usually get is how long is that process to go through Satellite Beach? What's the time frame? Just a kind of a guess, so if somebody asks.
They believe the construction will be anywhere from 6 months to a year, and I know that's a big spread, but it's such a huge area that anything can disrupt that, rain and all that. And so we all know about that. So they don't like to give us any timeline, so they give us real big windows, and they'll do the same thing to the community.
That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, that would actually work out. I mean, if it starts somewhere other than Satellite Beach at that time of year, that'd be good, because with the influx of residents that come in January, February, and March, if it's not happening here during that time frame, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is a resurfacing project, so it's not nearly as invasive, if you will. They'll be doing one lane at a time is usually how they do that, and they usually do it at night. So I think it'll be much more easier, but a lot easier than we think it will. I did want to mention that we do have some items scheduled in our CIP for the CRA. One is the landscaping design for A1A. We will start that process with the advisory board, And we also are starting the process for the transit shelter designs as well. So that process is moving forward through the advisory boards. And then I did, again, we have the March 12th re-celebration of Shaw Street, so if you all could be at that, and that's at 1 o'clock, 1 to 3. And then I wanted to mention and get some direction from the board regarding the recent county decision to require all of the CRAs to have a template for their annual reports. Initially, the city managers, at our regular association meeting, we did meet about that. We also I asked our attorneys to call their office to find out where they thought they had the legal ability to do any of this. They, of course, they're really bad at returning phone calls, so they never did speak with our attorneys. But the city managers met, and we thought that we should send a letter, describing that we all meet the statutory requirements for the annual reports. And I did collect every annual report from all the CRAs except for Myra. And we do meet every single requirement. There was not one CRA that did not meet the requirements. They were all noticed on time. They were all adopted on time. They all included all the information required by Chapter 163. So we were going to send that off, but then I was waiting on a couple more pieces of information from other cities when yesterday they had the county meeting again, and I was noticing that it seemed like all 5 commissioners, because it was a 5-0 vote, was very in favor of this. So I did speak to 2 of our county commissioners that are typical supporters of CRAs, and they did indicate that they would really like us to do this. And they gave the reason for they would like to have a compromise with the audience and among the county commissioners. And they would like to show that we are not afraid of transparency. And then I posed the question, well, what if I created the form? Can I do that and the cities do it? And how would you feel about that if the cities created that and we gave that to you? And both of them thought that if we move forward in being the leaders in that would be great. And then Commissioner Fisher thought that it was a great idea to take control of that process. So we will be doing that. I checked with the other city managers if that's what the board would like. They all agree to that strategy. They think that keeping the peace is a little bit more important than having an argument over something that's pretty simple. In the future, some cities could actually replace their annual report with this document if we create it according to statutes, which we will. And that might be actually easier for us, especially if we create it in like a PDF format that could be done electronically and submitted electronically. So that's the kind of ideas I'm coming up with in that process. So if that's something the board would consider, it would make it, I think, a good effort towards, working with the county commission and supporting the county commissioners that do support CRAs and helping them compromise with the people that don't. And then also kind of lead the process of making sure that we, we control that and not another group that doesn't really know much about the reporting requirements.
Let me ask this just from playing the devil for a minute. Is there any downside to this in any way? What's the downside, legally or otherwise?
I don't see a downside legally. I think the downside is time. It's just another report. Some cities, like Rockledge, their annual report's beautiful. It's 40 pages long. They make it like a marketing piece. They give it out in books to people when they have their little events and their tables. So this, I don't see them replacing their report with this. I see them having to do this as an extra step, but they had no problem with it. I see us having the opportunity to replace this report with with this form, because we don't, our projects are 1 or 2 per year. They're very simple capital projects. There's not a lot to report there. So I think it's easy for us to change that the way we do it.
What kind of time schedule is being proposed to get that document to them?
I proposed to the association members that I would have it ready for the city manager's review at our next meeting, which is in 2 weeks. And then we would send that with a letter to the county manager. I have a call into the county manager to tell him that I would like to do the form. And the city managers have input and vote on the form we use. And then also, I have a table that I put together that shows every CRA meets the requirements of Chapter 163. And I think it's important that we get that message across, because what happened at the first county commission meeting, the message in the newspaper article was that we don't meet the requirements. And I don't think that's a fair assessment, obviously, because certainly we all do.
I think this is important for us to move in this direction, because in November, we're going to have 3 new county commissioners. And for us to be able to have something in place that we, as the municipalities, we're upfront in producing and in working with the county, it's going to alleviate a lot of stuff going forward with whoever comes in the future. So I think it's a good idea.
Consensus? Okay.
We're talking about the annual report.
Yes, ma'am.
What were the objections from various cities to having a uniform report?
The objections were it's another thing to do. And I think most of the objections were, and in fact, I initially objected because I felt that the way it was presented by the resident that was requesting it was that we don't do them right in the first place, which is untrue. A lot of cities use their CAFRs, what is the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, which is like, we do financial statements and audit. CAFR is much larger. It has lots of descriptions. It's almost like a budget, but an audit. So it has a lot of statistical information. So CAFRs in themselves meet the requirements of Chapter 163. So like cities of Cocoa, Palm Shores and things like that, they used the CAFR as their annual report. And that was a complaint by the resident saying it's buried in the CAFR. What the resident didn't say is that all of the cities that I was talking about separate out the CAFR and put it on the web separately as the annual report for their CRA. So it's very easy to find. So I think part of the response that we do to the county commission is say, look, we're all on board with being transparent. We're willing to do this form. We created it for you. It meets all the the requirements of Chapter 163. It's easy for you to combine them and do all your math that you want to do, whatever. But we want to make sure that you understand we were meeting the requirements in the first place. And all of the cities were.
Well, I'll move that we support having a uniform annual report form for the CRA, and that the city of Satellite Beach prepare the form.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Gott, second by Member Montanaro. Further discussion?
I would just say, I think we're better to lead the train than be following it or being. I mean, if it's something that we're going to have to do, I'd rather see us have, as you say, control and input. Let us kind of dictate where we're going with it instead of somebody else driving that train telling us what we're going to have to do. I think it gives the city a little more protection and a little more say-so in it, as opposed to, like I said, letting somebody else who may not be familiar with our city and how we work and how we report stuff. So I would support that. I think that, like I said, I think it's better to be, again, leading it than following everybody else.
I want to make sure they realize, they know, and at their meeting, that we do follow the rules and regulations. And it's, I think that's important too, to be in the report.
And I think that we also need to keep in mind that the form needs to apply universally and not just be geared toward Satellite Beach's stuff.
Yeah, and the intent would be to present that to the association. So all of the city managers that have CRAs would be basically voting on that form and have input on the creation of that form. So I see us, I will be contacting our auditor to make sure that we're looking at it that way and making sure that it's, transferable. I envision the cities just being able to hand that form to their auditor and making it part of their, their duties as an auditor, So I think it'll be a lot. Actually, in the end, we could make it an advantage to the cities, to the CRAs, by, simply cooperating and kind of controlling the process.
This time, I will open up for public comment, since it's an item we're going to vote it on, action item. There are no public comment. Back to the board. Any further comment? No. Lenore?
Steve Osmer?
Yes.
Mark Breimer?
Yes.
Dominic Montanaro?
Yes.
Lorraine Gott?
Yes.
Chairman Catino?
Yes, motion passes. Courtney, thank you very much for spearheading this.
I only have one more month that I'm president of the association, and I really can't wait to to pass that buck on to the next city manager, but it's been fun.
Thank you very much. Any further reports? Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 6, discuss, take action on FY14-15 Community Redevelopment Annual Report.
As we were just discussing, we are required by Chapter 163.3563C of the Florida statute to basically, by March 31st of each year, to produce a report of our activities for the preceding fiscal year and include a complete financial statement setting forth the assets, liabilities, income, and operating expenses. So therefore, we have presented that to you. The report was created by our CRA administrator and subsequently edited by our editor-in-chief over here. So it's, of course, perfect. We highlighted Shell Street primarily, the beach access improvements, so Shell Street and Seaside Plaza, the facade grant. And then we highlighted the DOT resurfacing project, which are, the things that we have done so far, landscaping at the street entrances of A1A, and then also our community redevelopment plan amendment. Okay? So we prepared the financial statements. Since our audit is not done yet, the financial statements are unaudited. However, we will meet the requirements of that section of the statute. There's another section of the statute that requires an audit. So we will, when we do our audit, meet that statute. There's no time frame for that. So, okay, and that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Question?
Move to approve the FY14-15 CRA annual report and send it to the taxing authorities.
Thank you. I have a motion by Member Gott, a second by Vice Chair Breimer.
Yes.
Further discussion? This time open up for public hearing, public comment on agenda item 6. Hearing none, back to the board. Any further? Nope. Lenore?
Dominic Montanaro?
Yes.
Steve Osmer?
Yes.
Mark Breimer?
Yes.
Lorraine Gott?
Yes.
Chairman Catino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, Courtney, and your staff for your hard work. Moving on to agenda item 7, adoption of minutes, February 3rd, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Breimer, and a second by
Dave.
Board Member Osmer. Any further? Hearing none, Lenore?
Lorraine Gott?
Yes.
Dominic Montanaro?
Yes.
Steve Osmer?
Yes.
Mark Breimer?
Yes.
Chairman Catino?
Yes, motion passes. Any further business before the board? Hearing none, meeting's adjourned. Good morning. Lorraine, thank you.
Well placed.